On 20 minutes past 9 as we continue with our broadcast and just moving away from Hajj for a little while. And another story of interest this morning is out of Pakistan. And this is the reason why we are linking up with Jahanzeb Hussain, who is a Pakistan based journalist, unpacking the story of Imran Riaz, who is now back in custody after being released. Jahanzeb, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the show. Wonderful that you are able to join us once again this morning.
Walaikum salam. Thank you for having me.
Right, let's talk about Imran Riaz. Just some background now that we've learned he's back in custody, and what was some of the issues when he was in custody in the first place?
Well, as far as we know, a complaint was made against him by some person in a city in Punjab. Not where he lives, by the way, but a complaint was made to the police. And from what we understand from the news report we have, he was charged for 17 different offenses under the Pakistan Criminal Code, most of them dealing with defamation of senior government and army figures. So that's what we had, and he was arrested, but the court ordered his release. But right away, as you said, he was arrested again, and we don't have much detail about why he was arrested again, and was it under the same charges as before, or is it something else that he has been accused of?
Yes. Now, we know some of the statements he made were obviously considered inflammatory, and to the extent that, he spoke about a fascist regime in Pakistan. And it is clear that as a journalist yourself, looking at journalism, and, when journalists do speak out, they come under threat at times. Would you say this was the case with Imran Riaz?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, he's very much a pro Imran Khan, and everyone who's ideologically in favor of Imran Khan now, after he was ousted, has become very vocally against the army, who is accused of ousting him from power, at least, or at least not stepping in to prevent him from being ousted. And he has been the same. He does TV shows for a mainstream TV channel, but he also has his YouTube account, which has become quite a popular format for many journalists in Pakistan. And he has, if I'm not wrong, 3 million subscribers on his YouTube channel, which is a big number. And YouTube, as you know, on social media generally, does not have the same editorial standards and requirements as a mainstream TV channel. So it's easy to say a lot of things, and perhaps not be careful of what you're saying as well, and given the context. But clearly, he's someone who said something. Because let's not forget, he also openly blamed the army for meddling in politics. And the army recently has been trying to change its perception or image as an institution that meddles in civilian politics. But as I said, all of Imran Khan supporters are vocally criticizing the army for its role in politics. And Imran Riaz Khan was also one of them. And often what happens is that when you are someone with a larger following and a big profile, that doesn't always protect you. In fact, if you have a large following and if the institutions feel that you can influence someone, or influence people, or becoming too big for your shoes, then you get into trouble. So sometimes, being an unknown person commenting on social media, you might be able to get away with things, but if you are a high profile journalist or a commentator, then things come down on you a bit more heavily.
Chanzib, do we know exactly what are the charges that have been leveled against Imran Riaz Khan?
I mean, the Pakistani Penal Code has many, what you can say, a lot of them. I mean, Pakistani Criminal Code dates back to the British era. It's actually from the 19th century. and it has many provisions, some of it dating back to the colonial era, but a lot of them also added by Pakistan later on, that deal with defamation, anti-army sentiment, anti-national, anti-Pakistan, anti-Islam sentiments that can be, described in any way that you feel fit. So what's being anti-national? So the latitude of interpretation is quite big, and from what I understand, these are some of the charges under which he has been arrested.
Now, just looking at it in media circles, and there has been concern that has been expressed with regards to Imran Riaz Khan, and also within media circles, there have been calls for his immediate release. But now that he is back in custody, again, the spotlight in Pakistan, as is the case in many other countries, where we're talking about media and media freedoms and the rights of journalists and media people. Once again, this has come under the radar, Jahanzeb.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's the previous Imran Khan government or the current Shehbaz Sharif government. There are certain things that don't change in Pakistan. There are certain lines that you're not supposed to cross. There's certain things you're not supposed to say. There's certain things that you can only say so many times. And I mean, we don't know what if any is the role of the civilian government, but it is very clear that the people who have gotten him arrested might not belong to the civilian government, if you know what I mean. And those things stay consistent. And also Imran Riaz Khan, I mean, he is actually a right wing journalist, and his views are something that I personally and many others disagree with. Yet that does not mean that someone who airs his views or her views is treated in the way that Imran Riaz Khan has been treated. I mean, freedom of speech still is a right in the country, and you are supposed to bring evidence against someone if someone has done something. But also in the larger context, the kind of laws that exist in Pakistan to curb dissent um, uh, are extremely problematic and serve to restrict space for people to say things. And in this case, this might have been someone who is right wing, who is not very progressive on many things, such as women's rights, for example. Yet this is a matter of principle, and this is you cannot pick and choose. Freedom of speech is freedom of speech. Doesn't matter if it's against someone who's progressive or someone who's right wing, and this principle should apply to him as well.
Yes, and also, Jahanzeb, what we found about Imran Riaz Khan is he's been pretty bold because there have been pre-recorded videos that have been circulating, and the one in particular that I want to refer to, where he's saying that the video was being recorded at the time of his arrest, and where he even spoke about possibly, he says, they may kill me, and if they will harm me, I will upload such a video that will cause a furor. I will name everyone, and these are the types of messages that are coming through from Imran Riaz Khan.
Yes, absolutely. And this is not a surprise. These are things that have happened to many other journalists who have been threatened, who might even have evidence that would compromise institutions and people, but they are not able to release them, because if they do, then that would invite even more trouble. So Imran Riaz Khan is one of many who has been threatened in the way, who has claimed what you just repeated, that his life is being threatened. There are many journalists whose lives have been threatened, many who have been killed. So he is one of many who is being treated like that. And it might come as a shock and surprise for listeners outside the country, but in Pakistan, this is hardly a surprise that his life is being threatened.
Yes. Now, obviously, this is a matter because he's back in custody. Possibly there may be a court case. He may end up in court. And just your thoughts on the justice system in Pakistan and how Imran Riaz Khan could possibly be treated should the matter get to court.
I mean, unfortunately, there are laws in Pakistan that quite oppressive when it comes to freedom of speech. They're like different acts, they're different laws that criminalize a certain speech in the country. And as I said, it's always pick and choose, right? So this is someone that the establishment might think is a thorn on their side, and they might use the laws against him. But there are many other people who say much terrible things, right? In fact, Imran Riaz Khan hasn't said anything terrible, strictly speaking. He has just accused institutions of certain things, of meddling in politics. But there's certain people who like properly, propagate hate and many other things, who are scot free because those are not the concerns of the establishment. So, what might the courts do? I mean, if this is a fair trial, then I mean, it might not get to it. I mean, my personal belief is that this is just a tactic to shut him up, and it might drag on, and he might get the message, and it might not go to court because there aren't that many cases of prominent journalists being taken to court. There are many cases of prominent journalists being shut down, their shows, TV shows being stopped, the columns are stopped from being printed, they are arrested, they're disappeared, they're kept in custody with no one knowing, some of them also killed. But these things, largely, even if they give a legal veneer to it, are largely extrajudicial, or at least the process of it is extrajudicial. And I cannot think of a proper case in which a journalist was taken to court and punished. So I am not sure if this would go that way. But if it does, then I mean, it's hard to tell because there's no precedent of what might happen, and we don't know what the evidence is. We know what the laws are, but we don't know what the evidence is. We don't know how the court would react to it. I don't know what the lawyers would argue. But I have a feeling that this might not go that far.
Well, Jahanzeb, we always appreciate you taking time out talking to us here this morning on Salam Media. We wish you well. All the best to you. Please take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much.
Jahanzeb Hussain, Pakistan based journalist, unpacking the case of Imran Riaz Khan back in custody after being released. And we will still continue. The time is just gone 9:32, and we will continue with our Hajj broadcast here at Salam Media, bringing you everything from the special day, from this wonderful day of Arafah, inshallah. And also later on in the program, after our Jummah, that's at around 2 p.m., just to remind our listeners and viewers that we will be covering the khutbah out of Arafah. We will be having the translation, and also we will be talking to ulama. We will be talking about dua in particular on this day of Arafah, and also at around 3 p.m. We will connect you live here on Salam Media, duas right out of Arafah. And now, next up, we're going to be having Zakaria Gangat joining us live from Makkatul Mukarramah. But this Hajj broadcast has been brought to you by Al's Hardware, standing united as one ummah. Al's Hardware bringing you a wide range, good quality, unbeatable range, and a friendly service. So for branch info or to shop online, you can visit alshardware.co.za. Stay with us.
Peace. Droplets of gold.